Yeah, it's interesting. There's some, I guess, relatively short-term data that they've done on PCSK9 inhibitors where they bring people's LDL cholesterol down to even as low as 20 milligrams per deciliter, which is just, I mean, it's unheard of low. And their claims is it doesn't have an impact on mental or cognitive issues. But again, it's a very short-term data. I'd love to see, I mean, not really.
They have never, first of all, when you put them on there, what's humorous is that we just mentioned a few minutes ago where we were talking about the little LPA or LPA little a, and you put them on PCSK9 and that's going to bring that right up. To me, that's a marker of inflammation, trying to fix the damage you're doing with this. You're shortening the lifespan by going on that medicine. There's no evidence that that class of medicine reverses coronary artery disease.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think the early trials in that actually showed increased all-cause mortality with the PCSK9 inhibitor.
It did.
If I'm not mistaken.
It did. Yeah. Absolutely it did.
Yeah, it's
yet I know, I've had these conversations with good friends of mine that are cardiologists. They're believing that it's doing something, but in all the years I've been a doctor now for about 30 years. I have never seen anybody with coronary artery disease reverse their coronary artery with what we've been doing for the last 30 years.
Yeah, that would, I mean, obviously the plant-based advocates will point to Dean Ornish's study, which was, I mean, in my view, I mean, you look at the quote unquote reversal, it was within the statistical measurement of the exam they did. It didn't show any significant. It was like, it went from like 41% stenosis to 38% stenosis, which is literally indistinguishable as actually really done anything. And it was, of course, there was all the other lifestyle modifications that occur. So yeah, I don't know that we've seen coronary artery disease reversal with any of these drugs for sure.
I believe that Dr. Ornish's study was flawed and too short to show anything of real significance. And I'll just mention that, he was one of the cardiologists that when I was back in my childhood of internship, we studied under, and I'll just remember all the fellows were desperate to come to the internal medicine medical review because the lunches in the cardiology suite were all according to Dean Ornish, and they were dying to have pizza. So, so nobody. It's wrong, and I really believe if you go back in history, you go back 120 years, we did not have coronary artery disease like we have today. And the argument would be, well, people didn't live as long. Well, people are living longer, not because of medicine. Really, we keep them going. But the major thing that has really changed society is sanitation.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, clean water, access to fresh water and sanitation.
Clean water, sewage has made a huge difference.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest change to life expectancy that we've seen.
And I'll give credit to the antibiotics; they've helped a lot here and there. Yeah. But that's the major improvement in our, medicines, and we've been locked into, we don't use critical thinking anymore.
Yeah, again, healthcare has largely become a big business, and it's very much financial, right? I will say, and I'm just going to comment, I'm going to call out Drew, one of your colleagues, Drew Iman, who's I think very close to you in Florida. He's here watching, younger guy, orthopedic surgeon. So it's good to see more and more doctors sort of realize this. That I think he might even be in Boca or somewhere. Drew, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're somewhere in that neighborhood, if I'm not mistaken, but somewhere in that area. But it's good to see.
Drew has, I'm not sure which planet, but I see like the sun or a star coming in the background. Background. So I would never know he's in Florida. I thought he was outer space.
Yeah, it could be.
Great background.
No, I think he's real close to where you are, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, so it's good to see, and the reason is because we're running close on time here, and I unfortunately, we have an hour available for this stuff, but. Where if people are interested to find out more about your perspective, or are you doing anything on social media, or how do people get a hold of you these days?
The answer is my phone number, my personal phone number is out there, and they can find it. I have no problem giving it out. I haven't been really on social media, and I've actually kept my head low. During COVID, I treated people all around. I consulted for people all around the world. And I was fortunate to get 3 letters from the American Board of Internal Medicine telling me to, that if I'm sure everybody that is boarded got some sort of letter like this. I want to believe that, but basically telling us if we talk about anything that's not part of the accepted messaging, that we would be looking at issues in the future. And so it was a very threatening letter. So as a result of that, I've been just enjoying people like yourself commenting every now and then when I, that I love it, or maybe I think differently a little bit here and there, but I've been chicken. So I haven't gone to social media.
Well, you're here now, and so I mean,
yeah, I know. I've committed myself now.
You're out now. You're outed. You're outed
Yeah.
as someone who's willing to think freely. I guess it's kind of a crazy thing now. I guess it's becoming, there's some, I know on Twitter they've sort of opened up quote unquote free speech again. Supposedly, we'll still see what happens, but yeah, it is tough, and I commend you guys and any of the physicians that have been willing to just have an open mind and push back a little bit. And I think that's something we all need to do. So good for you for doing that.
Well, I came on because I was really looking forward to talking with you and sort of meeting through here.
Yeah.
I think you're doing a fantastic job. And I think that if someone's having health problems, any health problem, go carnivore, go keto, get into ketosis. Just before I hang up here, there's a couple patients out there who are type 1 diabetics. Something that I thought would not be, from my knowledge base, would be how can you get a type 1 off insulin, etc. And there's a couple guys out there who are really just doing the carnivore and barely taking any insulin at all.
Yeah.
And things are getting better, and they're starting to potentially, I guess, make their own insulin.
Yeah, I mean,
so I've looked at this as a possibility that I see autoimmune disorders and cancers as a response to bad nutrition or lack of nutrition. And that if there's a genetics screw up down the line, it's because we're not getting what we really need, or we're taking on a toxin. And if you take away the toxin, the body fixes it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, certainly I've seen a number of diabetics, particularly in the honeymoon phase, where they've not had to go on insulin, or they're able to come off, or people who are longstanding who've been able to dramatically decrease their insulin utilization. But just as importantly, and more importantly, they're avoiding the complications, the retinopathy, the nephropathy, the vasculopathy, the cardiovascular disease, which I think is ultimately what we want to do, whether or not they can manage to get off their medication or not. And the sad thing about this kid in Canada, he's a 23-year-old type 1 who's developing complications, retinopathy and vasculopathy, and they're just saying, okay, well, just go ahead and kill yourself. Where I'm like, my gosh, you could put the kid on a carnivore diet, feed him steaks for 6 months, and probably it would give him his life back.
It will be amazingly changed.
Yeah.
And I hope here in America that the pendulum swings and that we don't follow the route that some of these countries are going. I mean, there's that. We need medical freedom.